Latika will tell you where has she taken these beautiful pictures.
Please join us. Good evening. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of my publishing house, Academic Foundation, the publishers of this book, on a very, very chilly evening today. And I would just take a minute or so before I hand it over to Latika. When Latika first came to us around a year back, she showed some of the pictures that she was proposing to put it in the book. I just saw probably for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And after that, normally a publisher takes time to decide whether they're going to publish a book or not. But it did not take me more than 5 minutes after looking at these pictures. And I said, yes, we're going to publish this. This is one of the most amazing pictures that I have seen. At that time, she had not completed the work. She was still to travel probably once more and finish one of the tribes. So this book captures the OMO tribe of Ethiopia. It covers the 8 tribes of Ethiopia. There was something like 60,000 pictures. And the toughest part was to choose the best 200 odd or 230 odd pictures that are going in this book. And I would say it was the most difficult part for her as an author and me as a publisher to decide which picture not to pick. So that was the toughest part as far as being a publisher. And I would not take much time. I would now request Latika to share her journey, her entire thing, how this book has come. Latika.
Good evening. It's a great honor to be here, and I'd like to really thank Beena Kakji for releasing the book, and for Urvashi and Sanu to be here at this very special time. OMO is really a labor of love. Love for the people about whom the book is. And I went there and I discovered the way they lived and the personalities of these people, the strength of the women, the purity of the children, and I needed to tell their story. The book is about these 8 tribes. Some of them have dwindled down to under 1,000 people, and many of them will disappear very soon. The area was one of the remotest corners of Africa. Almost no one would go there. These people lived in much the same fashion for hundreds of years. Today, conflict with Sudan, development that has been introduced to the region after it has been integrated into Ethiopia, and the onset of tourism has really dramatically changed what is happening there. The pictures were taken as an observer. I did not participate. It is, every photograph shows what was happening in that split second. Nothing was posed, there was no modeling. It was just as is in action. A lot of people have asked me about the authenticity of what I had portrayed, and it is what I saw and what I perceived and what I felt. It was a really tough journey. It was a solo project financed by me because I believed in the subject. I discovered OMO quite by accident because I'm a wildlife biologist and I wanted to photograph the rarest wolf in the world, which is the Ethiopian wolf. And in search of the wolf, I went to Ethiopia. And while there, I wanted to see where the origins of man lay. And this was in Hadar. And OMO is very close to Hadar. And that's how I discovered these tribes. To visit some of the tribes took me almost a year. And I have hung out of planes. I have been shot at by an AK-47. I have been in the country at a time where there was great political unrest and there was a state of emergency. All access to the outside world was cut off. No telephones, no emails, no Facebook, nothing. And once I was in the field, there was very little infrastructure. So I was living in tents in the forest, dependent on one local guide who could translate for me and one driver. And I spent much of my time like that. The people, each tribe was very different. Some were very warm, some were very hospitable, others were very hostile. I've had stones thrown at me, I've had people push me, I've had physical violence. But always the guide would go and ask for permission to be able to do this recording of the culture and their traditions. Some of the images in the book have not been seen before. Some of the rituals that I've captured are unique. So, and I went with this database to the Ethiopian government. They have partnered me on this project, and the database will then be handed over for their use because this is a unique database of this size to them. There's a lot of images in there which tell you about the women and the culture there. A unique feature of this area is that they are the last tribes that wear lip plates. And this is quite a drastic thing for most people to see. The women will wear a lip plate, can then vary in size from a few centimeters to larger than their faces. So it's like wearing a dinner plate suspended in your lip. And there were some tribes in South America where the men would wear small plates, but otherwise the custom is quite died out all over the world, except for the Suri and the Mursi tribes. So to be able to actually see what they do and to talk to the women and to see that the younger women are choosing not to do this to themselves anymore was a revelation. The area is also being threatened because 5 large dams are being made there. And the dams are inundating some of the most important regions of the Omo and Mago National Parks where these tribes live. They're primarily agro-pastoralists. They depend on areas where their cattle can graze, and those areas are being inundated now. So everything is going to change for them very, very quickly. There was also in Mago National Park a very perceptible wiping out of wildlife because of these projects coming in. I saw images of dead animals being, butchered and removed from the area, and sugarcane and cotton plantations coming in. So it's something that really led me to, do a lot of soul searching and thinking about what was the right path, what was the truth, what should be. Do we have the right to insist that these people be made to live the way they were living because we wanted to see specimens of that culture? Do we deny them access to modern medicine, modern education, modern development? Or do we have the right to interfere and encroach and wipe out their lands because of the dams? What is the correct thing to do? Do we leave them untouched, where they are threatened by disease and by drought and by outbreaks, because I saw all of that as well. These are very tough questions. I think everywhere in the world, when you're dealing with indigenous communities, you deal with these questions. And this book is about all of that. So that's a little bit about the book. And I think I would like to request Urvashi and Beenaji, and we'll talk a little bit more about this.
Latika, you've told us a lot about the book. I just want to put a couple of questions to you, which would be nice for us to know also. How did they react to you? I mean, how did you make your first entry when you went into talking to the tribes? And did you have an interpreter with you? And how many languages were you addressing? And how many interpreters? That sort of thing.
The one lasting memory I have.
Hello, who are you? Ghosts?
Ethiopia calling.
Okay, I only use the interpreters to get permissions from the village chiefs. The interpreter is actually mentioned in the book. He's a local boy who learned English and then studied tourism. So it's very sensitive to local culture. And we did not interact with the people at all, because the idea was that I record them in their natural form. And I've learned this because I do a lot of wildlife photography, and you learn to be an observer and not a participant in an incident. And I really made a conscious effort not to be involved. I did not want to have a conversation. I just wanted to record what I saw at that time.
But in many ways, this is not a book as in terms of you have an idea, you go out and write a book and then you want to publish. But it seems to be more like a passion and a documentation and a tool, if you like, in the battle for recognition and justice for the tribes that you photograph. Something that in Jaipur we've been talking about a lot. Why writers write? Why do they go and do these outlandish things of pitching up in another country and tracking down lost tribes and then trying to document them? So how did you come to it? I know you talked about the wolf, but it's not only that. It's some. So what was it that led you to doing this?
So I lived in Madhya Pradesh for many, many years. I've lived there for almost 30 years, and I worked a lot with the communities there and the communities in Chhattisgarh, the Bastar communities. And I saw what was happening. I've also spent time in the Northeast. But when I discovered these people and I saw how urgent their need was and how apparent the dilution of their culture and their lifestyles was, and the fact that when I did research, I didn't find adequate information on them, and they hadn't been really taken into consideration on any scale when the country's development was being planned. I thought it was really important that I go in there and I try at least to show the world what this area was about and who these people were.
So I'm going to ask you another small question, and then Beena will ask you a question or two. My question is, what did you referred to it a little bit? What did you find, how did you find the women and the men different? You referred to the lip plates, but the received wisdom about societies, lost tribes and others is that there is a kind of equality that they practice between genders. Is this correct? Did you find that?
Yes. In fact, the women owned the land. The women would control what happened in the house and in the fields and the food. The men would go out with the cattle, and the men would protect the villages against raids. So there was a very, great sense of equality in that sense. But this region, more than any other, I found the people were very proud. They had a great sense of pride in their bodies. And they also seem to accept as a part of life that beauty is based on pain. You know, and I constantly ask them, why do you have lip plates? Why do you get whipped? Why do you have body tattoos? And it was all for either I look beautiful because I have a big plate and so my bridal price is more, and things like that. So these, you know, those were the things that I noticed about the women.
So I won't ask her any questions. I am overwhelmed by her gesture to have given me the honor to launch this book at this Lit Festival. I saw the book in the morning and I was fascinated to see the beautiful pictures, the way she has captured the sentiment. And I was really fascinated by the fashion statement of these characters. You know, there was a gentleman with a wristwatch as his headgear, and there was a necklace made out of gas pipe, the LPG gas pipe, and you will find a number of other, you know, characters with these beautiful whatever accessories that they have sort of made out of local, whether they are, what do you call these, vegetables, kaddu hai, ya dusri cheezein hain. So hats off to this girl. She's half my age, but the way she's capturing the wildlife of India and, you know, जंगलों की ये सैर कर रही हैं, it takes a lot of courage, dedication, commitment, and compassion to do stuff like this. Please go and buy this book and see for yourself how beautiful it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Latika. Beautiful book, really fascinating. I've lived in Africa, so I can really connect with them. Thank you. Just 5 minutes and next session will start, but in the meantime, while they are setting up the stage for the next session, one more time, we would like to say thank you to our sponsors, to our partners. Our partner Z, in association with Nexa, Rajan Kilachand, Bank of Baroda, Rajasthan Tourism.